Hello and welcome to Henry County's Mid-Year State of the County Address. This is the very first mid-year address we've had. However, due to the economic challenges we are facing, as chairman of the board, I felt that it was important to keep our citizens updated as to the work that went into the recently adopted budget and to share with you what is and what isn't included in it. At the end of May, we adopted Henry County's general fund budget for fiscal year 2011, which runs from July 1st, 2010 to June 30th, 2011. That budget is $116,843,352, $9.8 million less than last year's, and about $850,000 less than the budget 5 years ago when we had about 30,000 fewer people in our community. What the Board of Commissioners together with the County Manager and Finance Department did over the last few months was a little like training for a marathon. We knew we had to go the distance. There could be no quick fixes and no shortcuts. To borrow a quote I recently ran across, pressure is nothing more than the shadow of great opportunity. The steps we take today will affect us well into the future, so we knew we had to set a pace we could maintain as long as we needed to, and look at this as an opportunity. Several important issues influenced the decisions we made. Over the next few minutes, I would like to highlight those issues for you. First, as you know, property values have fallen sharply all across the nation, adding insult to injury in this blighted economy. As a result, Henry County's overall tax digest saw a value decrease of about $1 billion. The tax digest is the combined value of all properties, residential and commercial, in the county. For instance, if your home's taxable value is $150,000, that value is combined with all other property values to create what we call the digest. The combined value of the digest is then converted to an expected tax collection dollar amount. This is the tax value. The tax value is what we base our budget on each year. This year, the overall tax value plummeted approximately $12 million from last year's tax value. How does Henry County arrive at your property tax value? By state law, the county must appoint a panel of citizens to a board known as the Board of Assessors to oversee the tax assessor's office. Even though the Board of Commissioners funds this department, we have no direct oversight of the department. The reason for this is to ensure that no property owner receives any sort of political favoritism or even perceived favoritism. With the elected officials completely removed from the process, it ensures that there isn't even a hint of impropriety. These citizen members hire a chief appraiser to manage the tax assessor's office. The job of the assessor's office is to assign a value to each property in the county. Taking into account all exemptions, this office then presents a digest value to the county's finance director. When word was received of the $12 million shortfall the tax value created, the finance director, together with the county manager and the Board of Commissioners, immediately began the task of determining what services are needed, what the cost of services will be, as well as the possible restructuring of departments, reduction in workforce, early retirements, the rebidding of contracts, and other cost containment measures. Only after all of this is taken into account to determine the needed operational budget is a millage adjustment even considered as a means to balance the budget for the upcoming year. An upward millage adjustment is always the last option considered. Let's look back briefly on the budget for the past two fiscal years, fiscal year 2009 and fiscal year 2010. The 2009 budget was $129,522,108. That year, the Commissioners decreased the millage from 11.2 to 10.969. This effectively cut the county's budget an additional $1.8 million on top of the other cuts already made, including early retirements and a sizable reduction in workforce. $7.3 million was taken from fund balance to make up the difference. The 2010 budget was $126,681,137. Notice a drop of almost $3 million from the previous year. But the Commissioners left the millage alone, though you may have seen your tax bill go up slightly when the state of Georgia eliminated the Homeowners Tax Relief Grant, which had provided tax relief to all homeowners with a homestead exemption since 1999. More reductions went into force. More retirements topped the list. This time, however, vacant positions were not filled and other cost containment policies were put in place. Approximately $7 million was again taken from fund balance to cover the shortfall. Let me stop here and explain fund balance to you. Fund balance is like a rainy day fund. By law, we must keep 25% of our operating budget in a savings account. Anything above that 25% can be used for emergencies, such as balancing the budget or on unexpected expenses throughout the year should the county suffer a major loss. Another benefit of those reserves comes in the way of bond ratings. Thanks to sound and conservative financial management, Henry County maintains an excellent AA1 bond rating. This rating allows us to borrow money for projects at a greatly reduced interest rate, saving taxpayers thousands of dollars in the process. Now, why would the county want to borrow money in this economy? Let's talk about SPLOST for a moment. SPLOST is a special purpose local option sales tax. In 2007, we, the voters of Henry County, voted to impose a 1-penny sales tax on ourselves to construct a number of road and building projects that simply could not be afforded out of the general fund budget. These SPLOST revenues go into a special account and cannot be used for the day-to-day operations of the county. If we go out and borrow against the anticipated collections, instead of waiting on the funds to accrue, then we can build the projects at today's prices when contractors are willing to work for less, getting more projects completed and saving taxpayers thousands of dollars on projects. Add to that the savings we see in interest thanks to our bond rating, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings that can then be spent on other projects, thus maximizing SPLOST dollars while ensuring that citizens in every district can all begin seeing progress in their communities at the same time instead of seeing only one project move forward at a time. So you can see we must maintain a healthy fund balance, both because it's the law and because of bond ratings. But we have had to dip into it for the past 2 budget cycles, and we simply cannot continue to do that. That's why for this budget cycle, finance staff spent many long hours, grueling hours, working with each of the departments to find ways to cut their individual budgets and locate new revenue sources to ensure that the general fund budget is as lean as it can possibly be without cutting the critical services our citizens count on us to provide. For example, out of the general fund budget, 62% goes to public safety, and within that amount, 75% pays for salaries. This is one area where we must be careful. We cannot risk the safety of our citizens. Therefore, we did not even take one officer out of a car or one firefighter off of a truck. But we did reduce administrative costs, freeze all vacant positions, and cut some top administrative positions. And instead of trading out a number of fleet vehicles, many will be kept in service another year. Countywide departments have averaged a 10 to 15% reduction in their budget. Vacant positions for these departments have also been frozen, and contracts for services are being renegotiated. Other ways we balanced the budget were an unexpected $2.3 million to be recouped through attrition, retirements, eliminations of vacant positions, and 4 furlough days for employees. These furlough days also apply to the Board of Commissioners as well. The addition of $1 million in projected revenues from the courts through new fees and the implementation of a new third-party indigent verification system, changing employee health benefits to control rising costs and insurance premiums, reducing by 15% what the county contributes to the Department of Family and Children's Services, the Henry County Health Department, the Developmental Disabled Services, and the Henry County Public Library System. implementing a paperless paycheck system that is expected to knock more than $5,000 off of annual payroll cost. We will also be using savings realized from SPLOST 2 and SPLOST 3 projects to fund road resurfacing, allowing $4.5 million to be removed from the general fund DOT budget. Some of you may wonder how we're able to do this when SPLOST funds cannot legally be spent on general fund items. This is possible because road resurfacing is an approved SPLOST 3 item on the master list of projects. At this time, I want to especially thank our Sheriff, Keith McBrayer. He has found some extraordinary savings in his budget and continues to be proactive in finding new revenue sources. He renegotiated the medical contract for inmate care, saving $600,000, and has proposed our using inmate labor to save money on janitorial and other services throughout the county, for which we anticipate tens of thousands of dollars in savings. I would also be remiss if I didn't commend the judges, the district attorney's office, the solicitor, and the courts for the significant cuts they have made and the programs they have implemented, such as the new Indigent Defense Verification System. This is expected to bring in more than $1 million in revenue. Neither the Sheriff's Department nor the courts are under the budgetary control of the Board of Commissioners, so this level of collaboration on the part of all elected officials to trim every place possible and still offer quality service to our citizens is greatly appreciated. We could not do it without their cooperation. So you have heard a sampling of the innovative changes and sacrifices we have made internally to make our budget as lean as possible, all without affecting service levels for our citizens. But unfortunately, there was still an enormous gap that we, the Board of Commissioners, have to fill, a $3.7 million gap. Now, the biggest question looming on everyone's mind is, will I see a tax increase? The answer is probably not. Will I see a millage increase? The answer is yes. On July 29th, the Board of Commissioners approved an upward millage rate adjustment from 10.969 to 11.75 mills. But you ask, how can I see a millage increase and not see my taxes go up? Here's the reason. Over the last 2 years, the assessor's office has reassessed 100% of the property in the county to reflect current market values. Do you recall the $1 billion decrease in the tax digest I mentioned earlier? $800 million of it comes from residential properties. That huge decrease in value means that most likely your taxes will still go down on your home even in the event of an upward millage rate adjustment. Now, taxes will always vary on every parcel based on exemptions. Exemptions range from no exemption to homestead exemption to school tax exemption for seniors, exemption for certain veterans, and also what's known as floating homestead exemption. What is floating homestead exemption? Henry County is one of few counties in the state with this in place. The moment you filed homestead exemption on your property, your home value was locked in, and as long as you do not make any improvements that change that value, you will only be taxed on that amount for county commission purposes as long as you own your home. Which means, by the way, that the incredibly low property value assessed for your property today is the amount you will continue to be taxed on even after the values start to increase again. All of these exemptions mean that two homes valued at $150,000 could pay a different amount in taxes based on those exemptions. Keeping this in mind, here are some real examples showing how likely it is that you won't see a tax increase, but may actually get to keep more money in your pocket in spite of an upward millage rate adjustment. One parcel valued at $121,100 last year paid $1,646 in taxes. This year, that same home is valued at $69,900 and will pay just $812 total in taxes. Let's look at another example. The average home in Henry County was valued at $198,100 in 2009. Today, that same home is valued at $155,300. Even with the upward millage rate adjustment to 11.75 mills, The homeowner will pay just $554 for the county's portion of his property taxes. That's just over $46 per month for critical services such as police, fire, ambulance, 911, roads, and parks and recreation. Most families pay more than that for their cable bill. But it wouldn't even need to be that high if we can just attract more business to our community. This year we're reeling from a $1 billion hit to our tax digest, with 80% of it coming from residential properties, with just 17% of our tax base coming from commercial properties compared to a metro average of more than 24%. A number of challenges arise. First, and this is something that is probably obvious to you as you sit in traffic in the mornings, is that a low commercial to residential ratio is currently forcing 69% of our residents to commute outside the county to work every day. Second, it affects how much you, as homeowners, pay in taxes. After all, a typical resident uses $3 in services for every $1 they pay in taxes. For commercial properties, the situation is reversed. They use only $1 in services for every $3 they pay in taxes. When there isn't enough commercial, the weight of providing the needed services falls to the homeowners. For example, in Henry County, it takes a home valued at $383,000 for the 20 mills in school board taxes to pay for one child in public school for 1 year. You've already heard me say that the average home value is about half that, so you can see how important it is to have a strong commercial base to make up the difference. Now here's the good news. We're working to make that happen. Last fall, Henry County completed the community's first economic development plan that contains key objectives and new strategies for attracting new business and industry to our local economy and improving citizens' quality of life. Among these were to develop a new economic incentives plan designed to attract new business and complete an analysis of existing and target industries with an eye toward healthcare and higher education components. And we've already begun to make significant progress on a number of other initiatives, including obtaining a study for a new interchange at I-75 and Bethlehem Road that would improve access and alleviate congestion at both exits 212 and 216. Staff is working diligently to get an extension to Highway 20 included in the state's transportation improvement plan that would connect it to I-85. The new corridor would further solidify Henry County's freight network and create diverse economic opportunities for the entire southern region. And we have put out a request for proposals, or RFP, for designing and constructing a fiber optic network for Henry County government, the 4 municipalities, the Water and Sewerage Authority, and Henry County Schools. Collectively, these entities pay out more than $1 million per year for lease service through charter. By constructing our own network, we will enhance our children's education with data capacity 20 times the amount currently available in our public schools, as well as improve the cost effectiveness, efficiency, reliability, and productivity of existing government operations. And in the end, we will own the network. Add to that the possibility of allowing today's technology-intensive industries to tap into this fiber, and you can see what economic doors we are opening for our community through this initiative. And it seems that goal may be even closer to becoming a reality, as we have just learned that Henry County has a strong possibility of being awarded a $10 million grant for the installation of that project. Yes, times are hard, there's no question. Many of you are experiencing firsthand the difficulties this economy has wrought. But even in the midst of this, Henry County is looking to the future. To quote Joe Paterno, one of the most successful college football coaches in history, the will to win is important, but the will to prepare is vital. Through budget conditioning, we have made ourselves much leaner, and I believe we have prepared ourselves to go the distance, working harder than ever to reposition ourselves to attract more high-paying jobs to our community. We know that in the end, a solid, diverse economy affects not only our wallets, but our quality of life. I invite you to share the board's vision and optimism for the future. It's not going to happen overnight, but a brighter future for our children and grandchildren is something worth working for. We're going to have to think outside the box and do things differently than we have done in the past because, well, we want different and better results. And doing things differently will require us to use innovative muscles we haven't used before. And like any new workout regimen, it always takes extra effort and a determined mindset. But the end result is always worth it. Gradually, the economy is showing signs of improvement, and when it rebounds, we'll be running laps around the competition, ready to attract new business to Henry County. Together, we can run the distance and not only complete this challenging course, but come out of it a winner.